everyone, it's Frankie-Lou. I'm coming to you today from the Grow to Gather Homestead. And this morning, this is sort of a gather kind of day at the homestead. We grow a lot of things here that are multi-purpose. It's kind of what we try to do is make the most of every plant that we have. And one of the plants that has so many purposes, I honestly, once again, could talk all day about it, is borage. And I'm going to gather some borage flowers here today to add to my herbal tea collection. Now, most of you have heard of chamomile and mint. Those are the usual standbys, and yes, I do gather those as well. But you probably have lots of things in your garden already, particularly if you're growing to help the pollinators, that are also great in teas. And let me tell you, we have long winters here, and there's nothing nicer than being able to pull out a nice, beautiful, tasty cup of tea that you grew yourself in your garden. Most of the plants that I put in my teas, when I look up their benefits, they're almost all antioxidant, and they are good for respiratory issues. So why not? They're tasty, colorful, and help me to make my garden more useful in as many ways as possible. I hope you can hear right now, and maybe you can see how much the bees love the borage. So that's the main reason I do grow borage, is for the bees, but also I grow it for myself because these little beautiful little star-shaped flowers are delicious. They taste like cucumber. They're very pretty, so they're nice in salads, and they make a nice addition to a tea. They have a nice cooling cucumbery kind of flavor. So I'm gonna do some collecting here, have a little bit of a battle with the bees. No, I don't. I actually, when I'm collecting, I make sure I leave at least half the flowers that I'm working with at a time so that the bees can continue to use it. So I'm gonna show you, I'm gonna do some picking here. Basically, I'm just gonna go along and pop them in the bag, and then I'll show you some other flowers that I use and you may already have in your garden that actually make wonderful additions to your teacup in the winter. See you soon. Okay, here we have calendula. Calendula is gorgeous. It's also used as a food dye, believe it or not, but it makes a nice golden hue to your tea. I like to pick it when it's like that for my tea, and it dries easily, and it's also quite tasty. So there's one. All right, and here we have bee balm, also known as bergamot. It's not the same bergamot that's used traditionally in Earl Grey tea, but it tastes like Earl Grey tea. So much so that I love it because I'm a big fan of Earl Grey, and I believe in Jean-Luc Picard would be happy with a cup of tea made from this stuff. So I like to collect the flowers. A lot of people use the leaves as well. I just have so much of it that I just use the pretty little petals because they dry up and look so nice as well. And even my cat seems to think it's fun. Okay, this here is licorice mint or hyssop. It hasn't flowered yet. I've had a really slow season with my hyssop. So I'm going to be collecting some of the leaves from this. It has pretty strong anisey flavors, so I don't use as much of it because it is so strongly flavored, but it's good for you. It's one of those ones that you should, as much as you can tolerate, put in your cup because it's a good one. Okay, here we have raspberry leaf. Now, I know most people think of raspberry leaf sort of as a woman's herbal remedy. It's also really, really great for men's prostate health. So we make use quite a bit of it. It's actually quite tasty too. It tastes like tea. It doesn't taste like raspberry. And we always make sure we include a lot of that in our tea blends. Here's another you might not have thought of. This is the Lisnacia, I'm sure I'm saying that wrong, but Goldilocks creeping jenny, and you can make tea out of that as well. It's quite flavorful. I do enjoy it, and it adds a nice note to all my teas. I just make sure that I dry it out really well, and I add that as well to my tea. Okay, so there's just a few of them. There's more. I could spend the day showing you all the various things we use around here from my herb garden. I really like to use lemon verbena. I love that. It's just so delicious. Lemongrass, mints, all the various mints. Red clover in the garden. After the first hard frost, I'm going to collect rose hips. They're really good, lots of vitamin C. Earlier this spring, I collected a ton of spruce tips. Spruce tips are amazing. They contain so much nutrition, antioxidants, vitamin C. It's great, okay? It's a really good, tasty, lemony herb to use. Now, when you're collecting, there's various things that you can do to help dry your flowers and your herbs out. Sometimes you might get a gift in an organza bag. Perfect, keep it, because it's one of the best things you can dry your herbs in. All right, you just pop them all in there, or your flowers in, pop them in, draw the drawstring, hang it, you got a good one. I really love using jelly bags. I find them easy to use. I get a big elastic jelly bag, fill it up. This one is some red clover that I collected a couple weeks ago, and now it's all nice and ready to go into my mason jar. I keep all of my herbs and flowers for my teas in mason jars, which are labeled, because you might think right now that you'll always know what it is. You won't in the middle of the winter, so do label them as soon as you put the stuff in there. Okay, another thing, if you don't have jelly bags or you don't have organza bags, good old cheesecloth is great too. Just cut yourself off a nice section of it and tie it a couple times. I've got some beautiful raspberry leaves here that I collected a couple weeks ago, and they're nice and crunchy. You want to wait until stuff is crumbly. Okay, if you wait too long, you're not going to have as much of the essential oils and stuff that's making it good. So you want to check these frequently. I find with my raspberry leaves, I have to sort of open them up, move them around a couple of times while they're drying so that they get to this state. And that's when I'm going to be putting it in my jar and packing it away for the year. Okay, and another one that I didn't mention, but look at how pretty this is. It's not the most herbally natural remedy, but oh my goodness, who wouldn't want to drink a cup of that? Those are cornflowers. Okay, so I hope that inspires you to use your garden in another way that you maybe hadn't thought of before, because I guarantee you probably have some of this stuff already, you just hadn't thought about using it. Gathering in the morning is a good idea when everything is still nice and juicy from the night. I will say, I do want to put a little PSA out there. Please do check on each of these things, because any of these items drank in large quantities could be dangerous to you, okay? Almost anything can be dangerous to you drank in large quantities, but if you have certain medical conditions, you do want to check to see if you should be drinking this tea, okay? And if you're pregnant, you probably should be even more cautious about it, because some of these things can cause issues that you probably don't want to be dealing with. So do check that, and do make sure that you've correctly identified your plant. I know that I like to use the creeping Jenny that's Lismachia in my collection. I don't know if the other things that they call creeping Jenny are good for you. So do check, please, before you start collecting these things and drinking them. But if you have any questions about any of this or any of the things we do here at the Grow to Gather Homestead, please do send me a little message. I'll get back to you. Subscribe if you want to see some of the other stuff that we're doing around here. And I hope you take this chance to grow together today. Have a good one.